Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, August 9th, 2018, and welcome to each and every one of you. Well, you can see by the title, we're going to be talking about how I got my terminated YouTube channel restored for the fifth time. And as I've said before, if there's anybody out there that has any inkling of anybody that's had their channel terminated and restored more times than I have, well, I'm certainly not aware of it. And I doubt anybody would have the persistence and possibly the stupidity to pursue retrieving a channel. In this, the part one of how I got my channel back for the fifth time, I want to go into the particulars of the striking incident. Back in April and May, as many of you know, I had been in some, what would you say, significant hot water in terms of some positions that I had taken and backing certain people. And it's very easy on YouTube if you're constantly with the same people day in and day out. Inevitably, frictions are going to occur. Inevitably, fault lines are going to occur, and people are going to be on either side of issues in one way and then not in another way. So it's very easy to generate people that dislike you. And back in February, March, and April in particular, the YouTube community, Boyd community, was really split along several different lines. And there was one group that would have hangouts, and then another group would have hangouts. And at times they were allies, and at times they were enemies. So it almost became impossible to walk a neutral line. So gradually, I found myself coming under the hammer, mainly as a result of past hangouts and things. And in the matter of a couple, well, I would say 2 weeks, I had received two strikes. And if you, which many of you probably don't know, is if you appeal a strike and you win, of course, you have the right to appeal the strikes that come afterward if there are other ones. But if you lose that appeal on a strike, YouTube prohibits you from appealing that strike for a 90-day period. In other words, they don't want to keep coming back to your channel continuously and having to review strikes that are occurring. Now, remember, this is in YouTube terms, this is the bad old days, because YouTube has changed a lot of things, especially in June and July. And if you read the CEO's letter on your Creator Studio page, you'll see that they've taken some very big steps to, I don't want to say clean up YouTube, but to fix and adjust some of their systems so people that fall under very violent flagging attacks like I did, and I was the target of a very organized flagging attack that was orchestrated behind the scenes in private hangouts, and everybody was given their marching orders about what to do. So when I lost that appeal on a hangout of what was said in a hangout, and the second strike came, there was really nothing that I could do to appeal that. So I went about my business and continued to do my thing on YouTube. And then on May 9th, sometime around 9:30 in the morning, I was having breakfast in Healdsburg on one of my boondocking adventures. And I went to check my phone, and it said, your YouTube, dear Rosie O'Kelly, your YouTube channel has been terminated, blah, blah, blah. Check this link to terms and conditions. And of course, you're thinking to yourself, the average person is going to just be blown away by it. But I've been down this road many times. And I knew for one simple fact that the channel could be brought back. And what do you think that fact would be? That fact was that over the last 5 years, I poured a tremendous amount of content. A lot of it was frivolous stuff, but a lot of it was quite good stuff. And as a result, I had racked up not so much subscribers, but the more valuable views. You know, I mean, there's always this battle. Which is better to have, the subscribers or the views? To me, it doesn't really matter, but the views are what really makes you money. And at the end of the day, YouTube's going to look at the value that you bring to that. So I texted Missy Jen and I told her, you know, I got my channel terminated and I headed home. Now, they give you the path to appeal. You will be locked out of your channel. Anybody that goes to see your channel, Rosie O'Kelly channel, is going to see this channel was terminated due to violation of community guidelines, and that's it. And you may assume that all of your videos have been removed and that your content is gone forever. And the truth is something far different, as we'll see in the next installment of this saga. Now, having gone down this road before, I knew that the worst thing that you can immediately do when your channel gets terminated is to go ahead and fire off some half-ass appeal when that page comes up and says your access to this YouTube service has been blocked. If you feel like you have been suspended unfairly, click this little live link down here. It says HERE in blue. You click that and it brings you to a page where you put your channel name in, your channel URL, and a lot of people can't find it because guess what? Your channel's been removed and you sit there trying to remember your channel URL to put in. Well, there's a way to, I'm not going to get into that, but there's a way if you Google it that you can find that. But that stops a lot of people stone cold. And then you put your name, your first name and your last name, and then you have 1,000 characters to state your case to YouTube. Please explain below 1,000 character limit why you feel your channel was suspended in error. You fill that in, you send that in, and usually within 24 to 48 hours, you get a reply. Now, let's talk about why it can be bad to immediately fill that thing in and send it in. Number one, remember YouTube is all algorithm driven. And when they terminate your channel, when they send you that notification, they give a live link on there to community guidelines, to what they call the terms and conditions of service. And if you immediately, and they tell you to read those terms and conditions of service. So if you get really hot-headed and you immediately fire back an appeal to YouTube, they're going to immediately know that no way did you read YouTube's terms and conditions, because brother, they're long. Okay? So their computer already snags you up when you instantly reply, when you get the termination notice. This wasn't fair because my videos don't violate YouTube guidelines. You know, you're not really sure at that point. But one thing that they're now sure of is you don't take it seriously because you did not stop, pause, take a breath, and think about what you're doing and think about the terms and conditions. The other thing to consider is it worth bringing back? We live in the void, the bottom of YouTube, where it's rife with throwaway channels, with channels that people create, and then they don't really care if they get terminated or not. So this is really not addressed to them. You can almost develop an infinite number of channels, although that's going to be set to changing by the end of the year. But, you know, you have to decide if your content is worth bringing back. And of course, if, like me, you've invested 5 years of your life and you've put up 10,000 videos, and this channel covers your personal history, not only with Jen, but with the boss, and Janet, and Bobby, travels, adventures, fishing, Jen's and my 7,600-mile adventure, gone. So I had to make sure YouTube knew I was really, really serious about trying to get the channel back, and that I could at least say at the end of the day, no matter what, does 3 strikes really outweigh 5 years and 10,000 videos worth of content that was put up on YouTube that made YouTube money and made me money. So there was something there worth fighting for, and that's very, very important. Now, my strikes came in pretty rapid succession. Okay, one of the reasons why that it was later explained to me that I'll get into more detail is YouTube has been broadening their employee base dramatically, so that you have many more strikers and you have many more reviewers, and they sit all over the world, following wherever the sun rises and sets. They're sitting there reviewing checking flags and all that. And this has been a relatively new development, this explosive growth, because remember, the advertisers were freaking out that, hate things were getting on the internet. So as a result, they've hired tons of new people to sit there and review, but these people were green sitting here, and somebody in Thailand reviewing somebody in America's video that happens to be in the LGBT community is likely to be met with a bit more bias than a reviewer might dish out that's located in, say, San Francisco, California. You start to get involved in that. As much as they try to make rules hard and fast, so either the nipples and the genitalia are covered or not. If they're covered, you can't get a strike, no matter what you're wearing a bikini. It's easy peasy. But some of these people start to kind of use their own bias about things, and this is the things that YouTube is starting to work on to address these things, so that strikes aren't handed out like candy. And we all know in the winter and spring of 2017 and 18 that strikes were being handed out like candy on YouTube. Well, they're not being handed out so much anymore, because a lot of this bias has started to be swept away, and they're starting to understand the realities of what's really permissible on YouTube. Now, there's also, and I'll be talking more about that in the future, but let's back up to the strike incident now, and let's talk about 2 different ways you can get a strike. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to find this hard to believe. Maybe not. But if you have what they call the copyright strike, it is infinitely harder if your channel is terminated to bring it back compared to community guideline violations. The reason being is violations of copyright can result in fines for YouTube and the user. And these record companies and producers, all these people, they really depend on YouTube to protect their intellectual assets. And when it fails, they feel like they have a right to really pierce through and demand compensation. So YouTube takes a much tougher line when it comes to copyright than it does to community service, because they feel like, community service didn't offend everybody. We eventually remove the videos, get weeded out, and then we take it from there. But copyright stuff, they're like a little gun shy that you might do the same thing again. So realize right now that when you get struck with a copyright termination of your channel, it is exceedingly difficult, if not impossible, to bring that back, short of a mercy plea to bring back the channel, and a pledge to self-flagellate yourself around 2 continents of the world for a year and a half. The other thing I want to mention is when you get terminated and you appeal, you can get 2 possible letters from YouTube, and 2 possible letters. One of them is going to tell you that we've reviewed your request and we find that we made an error in restoring your channel. The second one says we've reviewed your information that you sent and we've decided to keep your channel suspended. Please refer to the YouTube terms and conditions. Now, many people, me included, go through an appeal process, not one time, but several times. The second time you appeal, you can also get 2 letters. And you better sit there and hold tight on your chair when you get that second appeal in, because one of them says we've reviewed your appeal and we've decided to keep your channel suspended. Please refer to YouTube's terms and conditions. The other one, what I call the kiss of death one, says we have reviewed the information that we sent you and we previously ruled and gave you our decision on this. Please note you may not appeal a second time. Now at that point, you're behind the Berlin Wall at that point. There ain't no way. No matter what you do, cartwheels naked down Main Street, pushing a pea across the street with your nose in front of their headquarters in San Bruno, your channel ain't never coming back. Okay, this is going to conclude part 1, the striking process. Stay tuned for part 2. It'll be upcoming in the very near future. Thanks again for those who welcomed me back. I really appreciate it. I love to be back. And let me leave you with this thought as we move forward in this process. If you provide value to YouTube and you are a true content creator, as evidenced by your subscriber list, your viewership, then you do have value to YouTube and you stand a very good chance of being restored. We're going to talk about going through the appeal process in part 2. Thanks so much, everybody.